I saw the transcript from your podcast when you talk about with Conor and Floyd, and it's a pretty good take here. And listen, I don't know what to think. Tiki and I jumped into the UFC game about a year and a half or so ago. Admittedly, late to the party, but certainly respected and have come to appreciate it. We know about Floyd. I mean, for our audience who hasn't read your or actually heard the pod, do you think that number one, it happens, and number two, if it does, can McGregor hang for a little bit?
No and no.
All righty, Joe. We'll see you later. Thanks a lot, Joe Rogan. Nah, just kidding. Go ahead.
If it's a boxing match, I think Floyd Mayweather is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, boxers of all time. And I think Conor has no business being in a boxing ring with him. If it went to an MMA fight, I think Floyd Mayweather has no business being in a UFC cage with Conor McGregor, and Conor would embarrass him. I think they would both embarrass each other in their respective sports. I don't think the fight is ever going to happen. I think it's a bunch of nonsense and a bunch of hype. I think that's all it is.
Okay, and listen, you know better than we do, but just say for a moment a leap of faith that it actually did transpire. And we have you scout, if the other were to step into the other's world, that they both get ravaged. I agree with that. But who would be less ravaged? Like, who would have the one to not get thoroughly dismantled? I would think McGregor, because I think you could dance boxing, but I don't know. You tell me.
I think he would have a better chance of surviving. He would probably be able to survive longer because Floyd, he's a knockout puncher that Canelo Alvarez is or Gennady Golovkin is. I think what would happen most likely is Floyd would embarrass him, outbox him, and make him look like he doesn't belong in the ring with him.
Yeah. No.
But if it was an MMA fight, Floyd would get destroyed. He would never make it out of the first round, without a doubt.
No,
Conor would wreck him.
Yeah.
Just wreck him. He would kick his legs out from under him. He would kick his body. He would take him down and strangle him. He would do whatever he wanted to him. The distance is so much different. The timing is so much different in an MMA fight. And being able to use Conor's best weapons, which are kicks, I mean, Floyd would be in big, big trouble.
Now, this feels like a tool, I don't know, create distraction or controversy with UFC. Is that a fair read on this?
It's possible. I mean, but he's got a contract with the UFC, so it's all smoke and mirrors. It's pointless. There's no way he would be able to fight without the UFC's permission, and there's no way the UFC would let him fight. It's all BS. I don't know who created it. It might have been some silly internet troll, and we're all running with it.
Yeah, but I would think that it's good. It can't be bad, right, Joe? I mean, if anything, it just gets the conversation, the tweets going, the retweets, and the conversation. It's a good thing, I would imagine, no?
There are worse things that could happen.
Yeah, exactly. PR
action. I would way rather just hear about that are really going to take place.
Yeah, you know what I think it does, and I hear you. We're going to get to 198, which is coming up in Brazil Saturday. What I think, though, Joe, like I said, we first, to be told, Tiki and I got into, we had Weidman in studio before he beat Silva for the belt. Chris came, a Long Island guy, as you know. Our studio is in Lower Manhattan, so given the proximity, came in. And when our producer said, hey, we have this chance, I said, I don't know anything about the UFC. I'm not in. Tiki, well, we said, all right, let's give him a shot. We fell in love with the kid. He came back with the belt when he whacked Silva. And since then, we've had Rousey and Holm and Tate and McGregor and John Jones, and all of them, right? But what I think for the person who doesn't know anything about UFC, like I didn't a year and a half ago, monetarily, even if it sucks in 3, 4, 5%, it would be a massive coup for the sport. So I would just keep throwing it out there. If I'm you, I'd basically pretend that it's going to happen, is what I'm saying. Fuel the fire, man. Make some money, Joe.
I see what you're saying.
You know?
You've got a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right in that sense. Makes a lot of sense in that way.
What's the deal? I know that we have UFC 198 coming up in Brazil. I don't know a ton about the fighters getting at the main event. Tell us about what's going to happen. What do you think?
The main event is the heavyweight title between Fabricio Verdum and Stipe Miocic. It's an important fight for the UFC for a bunch of reasons. First of all, Stipe Miocic is a dangerous challenger. He's a really tough guy, big ass hair, and he has all the look of a guy who one day could wear the title belt. He's arguably one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. In fact, there's 3 all-time great heavyweights that we all universally recognize: Fedor Emelianenko, Cain Velasquez, and Minotauro Nogueira. Fabricio Verdum has submitted all 3 of those guys.
Oh, wow.
He's a multiple-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, and he's arguably one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, if not the greatest. And, so it's a huge, huge fight. On top of that, they're fighting in Curitiba, Brazil, which is the birthplace of Chute Boxe, which is the most iconic MMA team to ever come out of Brazil. That's where Fabricio Verdum's trainer comes from. So just that alone is his fight special.
And also, Anderson Silva, who is from Brazil, is fighting this one. Does he have anything left?
That's a good question. We're going to find out, too. He's also from Curitiba, so he's very excited to be able to fight in his hometown. But he's fighting Uriah Hall, who is a really dangerous guy, super fast, like lightning-fast, explosive striker who has championship-level potential but has never fully realized it. So it's a real crossroads fight between both guys. It's a big, big fight for Anderson because he lost his last fight to Michael Bisping. And a huge fight for Uriah Hall because it's this massive crossroads encounter. And if Uriah Hall can get past Anderson Silva, it really sets him up for a potential title shot. And for Anderson Silva, it's a real must-win fight. If he loses to Uriah Hall, it's essentially over.
Oh, it's over at that point, Joe.
Joe, you mentioned Alvarez, Canelo Alvarez, and his punching power, stopping power. And he's got Triple G on his radar. How does boxing, can it come back against UFC?
Well, boxing is doing well. Boxing is boxing. I mean, it's always been an interesting sport. I love boxing. I also love kickboxing. I also love jiu-jitsu. I like watching wrestling tournaments. I mean, it's one aspect of combat sports. What MMA is all of those things combined, and that's why it's so much more exciting. When you get a fight like Amir Khan and Canelo Alvarez, it's exciting when Canelo Alvarez lands the big bomb. Up until that, it's not nearly as exciting. And, I think that right now in boxing, there's a few really dynamic matchups to be made, and Canelo versus Gennady Golovkin is the big one. So boxing is always going to be big. There's always going to be something there, and people are always, including me, are always going to enjoy it.
No, I need some big names here, Joe. I'm thirsting for somebody like Lennox Lewis, who obviously was really good, but not Tyson or, come on. I know you appreciate the sport, but boxing division's atrocious, man. It's atrocious. Who is that fat slob?
Certainly hurting.
Joe, who is that fat slob at the weigh-in? Like, he took his shirt off. It was like some guy at the frat house. Who is that guy? A champion? Who is that guy? Like 2 weeks ago, I saw some big white guy get up and take his shirt, and he literally had love handles like he's a slob. This is the guy?
That's Tyson Fury.
Jeez.
He's a heavyweight champion. He's the guy who beat Vladimir Klitschko.
I get point proven there, Joe. Hey, listen, I know that the weigh-ins.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I know you do. UFC 198.
Boxing needs a Mike Tyson again.
Oh,
agreed.
I'll take
needs a Roy Jones Jr.
Agreed.
No doubt. I'll take 50% of Tyson, and I know that you guys are going to get about 20,000 fans for the weigh-in on Friday before the fight. So this thing is obviously off the hook. Joe, good catching up, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it, gentlemen.